What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was a teen hybrid in Teen Wolf? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. A blonde-haired teen sat in an apartment lounging on the sofa. 16-year-old Naruto Uzumaki was sat watching a basketball game in nothing but some Golden State Warriors basketball shorts. It was his team versus Kobe's Lakers and Steph had just gone down with an injury. Oh, for fuck's sake man. That's the series over then. Can't believe this referee, they have been playing so dirty this whole game, he exclaimed. He was interrupted from his ranting by a series of knocks by his front door. Getting up, he turned his TV off and went to answer the door. Opening the door, he was met with the sight of his longtime friend James. James was a Hispanic teen around his age standing at a height of around 5'7", the less said about his height the better. James wasn't a fan of his stature whatsoever, but the teen cut an imposing image with his short coal black hair and pronounced jawline. "Yo little man. What the hell brought you all the way over here?" Naruto japed, knowing how it grated his friend's nerves whenever he called him that. "Shut the fuck up Konyo. Max thought I should let you know that the so-called Alpha Pack were converging to Beacon Hills for some reason," James informed his buddy. "I wonder what for. Doesn't Beacon already have an Alpha already?" Naruto questioned. "They do, there is clearly some underground level bullshit happening around that area." "So, what do you want us to do?" James waited for his friend's response. "You guys? Nothing. I'm gonna head to Beacon Hills and see what the hype behind this Alpha Pack thing is." Naruto shrugged before heading back to his living room, James following closely behind. "Are you stupid or retarded essay? You are but one alpha, if you're heading into foreign territory, you can't leave your pack behind." James was seriously starting to question the sanity of his alpha. "Relax homie. If I'm going to start a fight, be assured I would have gone with you lot. I'm just trying to introduce myself to the old heads," Naruto replied nonchalantly. "I don't know if it's arrogance or just plain stupidity, but you will get yourself killed one day." James decided to leave the apartment knowing that it was futile trying to change Naruto's mind when he had it set on something. Naruto let him leave knowing that his friend needed some time to cool off. He could understand why his decision had upset the teen, but James respected him enough to let him go through with it. Alpha's word was at the end of the day law. Naruto had been taking his risk his whole life, and although potentially dangerous, this right here smelled like an adventure to his hypersensitive sense of smell. Naruto went to his room, dishing the laptop out and doing research on the little city known as Beacon Hill. For the longest of time Beacon Hill had been the center of all sorts of supernatural activity, from werewolves and most recently a Kanema he found out. It seemed the supernatural activity in the area had once more began to intensify. Home to the infamous Hail Pack, although they had been wiped out by hunters apparently. Now how to infiltrate, he had to be careful because he wanted to meet the werewolves in this territory on his terms. Now Naruto had plenty of confidence in his abilities, but it wouldn't bode well to underestimate the situation. Naruto had yet to hear of an alpha as young as he was. He had become one at 14 after killing the werewolf that had raped and killed his mother before turning him. Day by day he trained himself adjusting to the new sense of power he had before he had become skilled enough to kill the bastard in single combat. It had been a while since he had been in school, and the easiest way to get into the city was to get an exchange into the local high school. Decided, Naruto got the documents sorted, and seeing as he was an A-grade student while being one of the top high school prospects in lacrosse, he had no doubt that in a short while his transfer would be approved. He sent the necessary documents and waited. 2 days later, it had only taken him 2 days to get feedback on his transfer, and the principal of Beacon Hills had been eager to snatch at the opportunity. The only sports they were performing well in was lacrosse, and the school had recently lost their captain and most crucial player. Naruto packed his luggage before loading it into the trunk of his 1970 Dodge Challenger. The inheritance he had been left with had made sure that he would be comfortable at all times. Finishing his packing, Naruto hopped in his driver's seat and turned the engine on, hearing the sweet purr of his precious car before beginning the journey. Couple days later, in the end it had taken him a couple of days, but he had finally arrived at the apartment he was going to be living in while in Beacon Hills. He unloaded everything and made his way inside. Tomorrow would be his first day at Beacon Hill High, the first academic day of the year. He made sure he was properly prepped for school the next day. Books packed, stationery packed, and all the necessities of a school learner were arranged. There was bound to be some werewolves at the school. Teenagers were easier to turn after all. He had learned long ago how to hide his scent from other werewolves. That was another big reason he hadn't brought someone with him. He wanted to remain hidden for as long as he possibly could. Naruto got the apartment situated the way he wanted, withdrawing the PS3 he had brought with him and connecting it to the TV. The apartment was fairly spacious, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms and a living area decked out with a nice kitchen. Well worth the money he had spent on it. Naruto changed into his basketball shorts, sitting down on the couch and played FIFA 14 on his console. He was mid-game when his phone's notification rang. Pausing the game, he turned to pay attention to the message he had received. James. You arrived in good condition, Puda? Naruto. Of course, what mere mortal could harm Lord Uzumaki himself? James. Cocky little shit. Can't wait until those alphas humble your stupid ass. Naruto. Now hey, no need to be nasty buddy, and we spoke about your use of profanity. Not cool dude. James. You're so fucking corny. Naruto. I love you too, man. James. You're such an annoying little shit. Insert one laughing emoji. Naruto. You try so hard to act hard, but I know the truth, hombre. You wouldn't know how to live without my annoying ass. James. Whatever, lil bro, when you start school? Naruto. Tomorrow. James. I'm ahead to sleep, hit me up tomorrow and tell me how that goes. Naruto. Bet. Naruto turned his phone off and continued playing his game before deciding it was enough and called it a night, heading to his bed and nodding off. Next morning, Naruto was woken up the loud ringing off his alarm, damn near hurting his eardrums. This was one of the things he liked least about the heightened senses. Getting up, he threw the blankets away, stripping and heading to the shower in his boxers. The blonde hopped in nude and turned the hot water on, cleaning his body thoroughly before applying shampoo to his platinum locks. Making sure every crook and cranny was clean, first impressions were important and mustiness on the first day wasn't a vibe. He stepped out, hair dripping wet as he dried himself with a towel. He wrapped it around his waist, his privates hidden in its confines. He then turned to the mirror and began the process of styling his still wet hair. The blonde had cut it short on the sides long before, and the top portion of his hair was made curly, resulting in a mushroom-shaped hairstyle almost. It suited him in his humble opinion. He then applied lotion, the vanilla-scented lotion being carefully applied as it seeped into his dry skin, enriching it. He tossed on a fresh pair of boxers, making sure spray deodorant on his underarms before exiting the bathroom. Naruto picked out his bag and decided on what he would wear. He picked out some black cargos, a clear black crew neck t-shirt and a purple flannel shirt to wear over it. He took out his pair of Nike Air Forces and completed his fit. Ready for school, he threw his bag over his shoulder and went outside to his car and drove to school. Couple minutes later, Naruto arrived at Beacon Hills High and parked his car in the parking lot. The 1970 Dodge was garnering some attention as a portion of the students filtering into the school turned to look. Today was the first day of the academic year and he could see a lot of young faces around, freshmen dipping their feet into the high school life. He got out his vehicle, making sure to lock it before he made his way inside with his bag over his right shoulder. A fair few of the older-looking students turned to stare, and if he had to hazard a guess, it was probably because they had never seen him before, and you could tell he was no freshman. A fresh face always garners much attention. Paying them no mind, he headed inside. He had been told over email to meet a Bobby Finstock when he arrived. He entered through the school entrance, heading into a hall with lockers on the sides. The shuffling of busy teens greeted him. How the fuck am I supposed to find this guy? Really should have asked them to be more specific, he thought before looking at the people close to him. Everyone was occupied by their lockers. Scanning the entire hall, he spotted a red-haired girl with red lipstick staring directly at him. Well, he had to ask someone, and this was his best bet. He began making his way towards the girl. He could hear her talking to someone with his heightened sense, a friend of hers he assumed. Her back was facing him, but he could make out the bronze gold locks of feminine hair. Shush Allison, he's coming. Are you sure I look good? Naruto found himself amused as the blonde whispered, or so she thought, to her friend. He was still a couple of meters away from the pair. You look perfectly fine, Lydia. What does this guy even look like? Her friend, Allison he now knew asked the red-haired girl. Tall, blonde and why? Now shut up, he's just behind you. Lydia quickly said, trying to get her friend to keep quiet. The girl, Allison, turned to face him as he was only a couple of steps behind the pair now. Her brown eyes made contact with his sky blue ones. Knowing the longer he didn't speak the more awkward things would grow, he immediately went to the reason that had brought him over to the two girls. Sorry to interrupt you guys, but I'm kinda new here and I need to find a Mr. Finstock. Do you guys have any idea where I can find him? He asked the two girls. Wow, not even a greeting. I had no idea manners were exclusive to Beacon Hills. The red-haired responded sarcastically. She was trying to make conversation. Well, he was going to be here for a while anyway, so it wouldn't hurt to make a couple friends. He decided to humor her. She wasn't his typical type, but the girl was far from unattractive. Full lips, and from what little he could see she seemed to have a decent-shaped body on her. My apologies. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, from San Francisco. He offered his hand out to the redhead. She in return handed her own out as well and he shook it. Beacon Hill's own Lydia Martin, she responded. He turned to her friend who was just watching awkwardly on the side. He didn't want to make her feel left out, so he handed her his hand as well. And you are? He turned his body to face the bronze-haired girl whose hands came to meet his. Allison Argent. Nice to meet you, she said, smiling as he shook her hand. He found her shy mannerisms cute and the way she almost sort of squirmed in nervousness as he kept eye contact with her amused him. Taller than her friend, she was around 5'8" compared to Lydia, who had to be 5 feet and 4 inches tall at the most. Naruto doesn't sound like a typical California name. He turned his attention to Lydia, who had been the one to raise that point. My mother was Japanese, hence the Japanese name. I can barely speak the language, but I guess you could say I'm Japanese, he said in a light-hearted manner. Exotic. What made you come all the way here when you could have just asked anyone close to you? Lydia said, her eyes intent to bore into his own. You were the first person that stood out to me, and I figured I might as well come over and ask you. The blonde replied truthfully. Well, I'm gonna need your number, then I'll give you the directions to Mr. Finstock's office, she proposed. That's fine by me. Naruto then typed his number into her phone and afterwards she told him which direction to head in. Alright then, it was nice meeting you guys, he said before heading off, his ears picking up the rest of their conversation as he walked further away. Oh my god, did you see those eyes? His voice, the height, I could go on for ages, Lydia said excitedly to Allison. I mean, I guess he was handsome, but Lydia, you don't even know the guy, Allison stressed. You're still stuck on McCall, aren't you? And I'm not looking for a relationship, I just want a distraction. Speaking of which, he tuned out the last bit of the chat as he headed to Mr. Finstock's class. Entering inside, he was met by a middle-aged looking man with black hair in a tracksuit befitting a PE teacher. Hey son, you're the new transfer, right? Okay, let's get this sorted. Here's your timetable with the details on all your classes and where you can find them. Now I need to find you a guide. Hold on a minute. The man left the room quickly, scanning for someone. Everything happened too quickly and Naruto was left amused by the mont's antics as he rushed to get him out his hair. Stilinski, get your butt over here. He heard the man yell, and a scrawny black-haired teen clumsily made his way over to the man. You, over here. The man gestured for Naruto to come over. Okay Stilinski, I need you to do me a favor and give this lad a tour of the school. He's new around here, the coach told the boy he called Stilinski. Hey, I'm Styles and I guess I'm your tour guide or something. Yay, I've never done this before, I'll be honest. The boy had an element of awkwardness to his movement, but he found it amusing. Naruto, nice to meet you, Styles. Let's get this tour over with. Naruto said, walking out the office and beginning to walk in a direction while Styles hurried behind him to catch up. Usually, the tour guide is the one being followed, but it's fine, I guess we're just skipping past that part. Okay, so what's your timetable looking like? Styles said, looking at his timetable. Well, good news, we got the same exact timetable. So, how about we just skip this tour and head straight to first period? Styles said, looking at Naruto with a hopeful look. Whatever man, Naruto chuckled as the boy pumped his fist in happiness. The pair continued talking as they made their way to the first period. Naruto found Styles funny and the two got along well enough as they walked. You and dear old Scott are gonna get along like peanut butter and jelly then, if you like lacrosse, Styles said as they entered the classroom. Speak of the devil. Hey Scott, this is a new student Naruto. He called over to the black-haired teen sitting at the desk. He had medium short black hair, and his jawline was defined. Oddly, the right side seemed longer than the left, but it didn't look out of place on him. The boy looked up towards them and he and Styles moved over to him. Naruto paused as his senses picked up on something. This new boy was most definitely like him. A werewolf, no doubt. He didn't give off alpha levels of danger, but his senses detected something that was confusing him. This wasn't your average beta, something to keep an eye on. I'm Scott. Pleasure to meet you. The boys introduced themselves and sat down in desks conversing as they waited for the lesson to start. Lacrosse was something they shared in common, and the three boys found themselves getting along discussing different plays. Naruto had learnt that both Scott and Styles were in the lacrosse team. He would have to join them soon. Lydia and Allison entered the classroom and Lydia left her friend as she went to her seat towards the left of Styles. Allison looked around for a place to sit before making eye contact with Scott sitting in front of him. The only open seat was in front of Scott. Her eyes met his for a split second as she looked puzzled as to where to sit. In the end she resigned to sitting in front of Scott. He could cut the tension between the two with a scissor. Something must have happened between the two. She eventually came and sat down in front of Scott. Everyone in the class's phones rang as everyone got the same notification as a message was shared. Before Naruto could read it, the sound of a female voice entering the classroom did so for him. He looked up to observe her appearance. Cream-colored high heels, a black skirt hugging her sides and a black spotted white blouse. She had dark red-colored hair, near brown in color. Young, probably in her mid-20s, she was an attractive woman. Her mouth was moving, but at that point Naruto wasn't really paying attention. The lesson kicked off and he soon found himself bored and dozing off. Mr. Uzumaki. It's a bit early to be sleeping in my lesson already, don't you think? Naruto woke up to everyone's eyes on him. Sorry ma'am. Naruto said sheepishly, rubbing the back of his neck in his nervous tic. I tried to wake you up, Styles whispered to his left. He let out a chuckle in response. The lesson resumed and before long it was halted once more. Scott McCall, you have to leave, your mother asked for you to be let out. The teacher said. Scott stood with his books and made his way outside the class and the teacher followed behind to speak to him. A minute or so later and she returned, and the lesson resumed as normal. Naruto found it really hard to care about any of what she was saying. The conversation Lydia and Styles were having was far more interesting to him and he found himself shamelessly eavesdropping. What is that? Is that from the accident? Styles said, referring to a plaster on her right ankle. No, Prada bit me. She answered him, her eyes only meeting his for a fleeting second. Your dog? He asked her, his face skeptical. No, my designer handbag, she said, her tone laced with heavy sarcasm. Styles deadpanned as he looked at her. Yes, my dog, she said, looking away in annoyance afterwards. Has it ever bit you before? Styles asked Lydia, who shook her head in the negative. What if it's like the same thing as the deer? You know, like how animals start acting weird right before an earthquake or something? Styles turned to her. Meaning what? There's gonna be an earthquake? Lydia replied in a mocking tone. Or something. Maybe it means something's coming. Something bad. Styles tried to explain. Naruto had at this point tuned out and began thinking about what was said between the two. Styles was right. Animals don't just act crazy for no reason. Styles was deceptively observant. He seemed to have a good head on his shoulders. An accident? Did that mean Styles and Lydia were aware of the supernatural? That seemed quite likely, seeing as Scott was a werewolf. His train of thought was interrupted as he caught the last strands of what Lydia was saying to Styles. 1.2, and then bang. Out of nowhere the window was struck by a crow, the bird leaving a bloodied stain and shocking everyone. Naruto could hear the sounds of more birds approaching, his heightened sense of hearing picking up on the cause of tens and tens of other crows all heading in their direction. The teacher went to observe what happened and she was shocked as the oncoming flock all came flying to the window. A bang, another bang, and glass shattered. The crows were now all shattering the glass windows and the teacher cried out for everyone to get down. Chaos ensued as the birds entered, pecking away aggressively at some of the learners. None of them came up to him. their survival instinct indirectly causing them to avoid him even though they had no idea of his true nature. This chaos carried on for a few minutes before everything unexplained stopped. Strange, very strange indeed. Naruto stood up and helped some of his fellow classmates up. Styles sat observing the traumatized teacher who was breathing in and out slowly, eyes transfixed staring out into empty space. "Miss Blake, are you okay?" he asked her. The woman nodded her head yes, eyes unmoving as if zoned out. Paramedics arrived at the scene shortly after. The sheriff who he now knew was Styles' father and his department had arrived as well. At some point Allison's father had also arrived to make sure his daughter was safe. Allison was sat on top a table, her father checking out her arm for any damage. He seemed oddly calm for a parent whose child had gone through something, and Allison seemed unbothered by what had just happened a while ago. Naruto, being curious, eavesdropped into their conversation from where he sat next to Styles. "If you don't feel okay you can just stay at home," the man said to his daughter. "I'm okay, but Dad, this can't be a coincidence. First the deer and now this. It seems like damn near everyone in this city knows about the supernatural," Naruto said, speaking to himself. He could understand Allison but her father as well. Allison Argent, now that he thought about it, that last name was ringing bells in his head, but he couldn't quite discern where he had heard it before. "I know." Allison's father answered his daughter, looking around as if wondering what to do. It was at this time that Styles' father made his way over to the father-daughter pair. "Sergeant, you wouldn't have any insight on this, would you?" the blonde brown-haired male asked Allison's father. "Me?" Allison's father looked at Mr. Stilinski, feigning ignorance. "Yay, this bizarre animal behavior. You must have seen something like this before, right?" the man asked. "Not sure why I would or why you would think I would." Allison's father continued playing dumb. The sheriff paused for a moment. "I'm sorry, I could have sworn I overheard my son speaking about how you were an experienced hunter." He gestured over to where Naruto and Styles were sat at. "All right, well, not anymore," Allison's father reiterated. "You all right?" the sheriff asked Allison, who nodded yes. That ended the somewhat awkward interaction as he returned to asking the other learners questions. Naruto and Styles sat discussing what had happened, and Styles asked to be excused as he wanted to make a call to Scott. When he re-entered the room, Styles apologized to Naruto for having to leave but told him he had somewhere to be. Not one to make a big deal out of small things, Naruto accepted the other boy's apology for what it was. He had his own shit to handle after all. Styles left in a hurry, exiting the school's facilities, heading off to God knows where. Naruto kept his eye on Lydia and Allison as they left to head to their lockers. They seemed to have an idea of the weird stuff that happened around, so if he wanted to find out for himself, he should keep an eye on them just in case. Heading out the classroom into the corridor, he felt a tingle in his spine, and looking for the cause of it, he saw two males wearing biker jackets. Identical, had to be twins. Hard to judge from a distance, but one of them looked a couple inches shorter than him, so around 5'11" in height, while the other was closer to his exact height. His danger senses told him that these two were definitely a level above your average werewolf. They had to be a part of the alpha group he was looking for. Trailing their eyeline, he saw an African-American lady gripping both Allison and Lydia's forearms tightly before running off with the twins, leaving shortly after as well. The girls then left the school with Allison's father, and Naruto resolved to track down the twins. Something was at play here. A while later, he had been trailing the twins for a while, and they had cornered the girl into the lacrosse locker room. They were soon joined by two other alphas, a Hispanic-looking lady walking bare feet and this tall, muscular dude. Following behind them was a blind man tapping the floor with his walking stick. This had to be Deucalion, the famed demon wolf himself, leader of the Alpha Pack. They all headed inside, about to ambush the female, and Naruto waited a bit until they were in to follow. He watched from a distance as the Alpha Pack decimated the woman. She tried to put up a fight, but it was clear to see that they were toying with her. Eventually they had beaten her into the lockers, and she sat there, bleeding from various cuts, as Deucalion made his way towards her and bent down to her level. He lifted his clawed hand to brush the hair away from the girl's blood-stained face. "Beautiful," he spoke out in a British-sounding accent as the girl trembled from fear at his touch. He let his clawed finger trail over her lips, and she moved her head back in protest. "You're defiant, aren't you?" His tone was playful, and that was exactly what he was doing. playing with his prey. This man was different from the usual wannabe evil alphas. He wasn't trying, but he simply exuded an evil aura. "Because I know something," the girl said defiantly as she struggled to speak with her wounds causing her severe pain. "I know you're afraid of him," she said, looking him directly in his sunglasses. "Someone the great Deucalion is afraid of? Interesting." He could tell that the old demon wolf was the only alpha present here with more raw power than him currently. "Of a teenage boy?" He sounded almost offended. "Of the man you will become," she said firmly. Deucalion looked wholly at ease, smiling at the woman. "I'm aware of a potential threat, but then someone taught me a very smart way to eliminate a threat. Get someone else to do it for you." The woman started panicking, thinking of the possible implications of what Deucalion said. "Derek." She seemed to have come to an epiphany. Deucalion smirked, raising his hand and as he prepared to finish the job. Prey successfully hunted. The alpha of alphas landed the killing blow. He slashed across her jugular with his sharp claws, ending her life in an instant, no suffering. Blood splashed across the lockers as the sign of the kill was affirmed by the crimson iron staining the lockers. Deucalion stood, straightening his walking stick and tapping it on the ground once more. That was Naruto's K to leave, but as he made to leave, the chilling voice of Deucalion rang out. "Come out, little wolf, I know where you are." Naruto was terrified. This is exactly the opposite of what he wanted to happen. James would have his neck when he told him of this, but for now, he needed to assess his options. If he ran, he would no doubt be tracked down. He only had one place to go, home. He could not afford them knowing where he was staying at. Shit, that only left him one option. Stepping out, Naruto came face to face with the 5 alphas. "Now listen, old man, I'd hate to send you to your retirement home, so I think you're better off letting me go, fuck." He'd done it again, his smart fucking mouth. Why the hell would he try antagonizing the fucking demon wolf out of anyone? Well, it didn't matter now, he had to fight, there was no way around it. Deucalion smirked in amusement at the bravado of the young one in front of him. The voice and his senses helped him in discerning his age. "Now you know I can't possibly let that happen, little one, prepare yourself. Death is the only outcome." Naruto growled as he transformed into his werewolf form. Hair becoming thicker along the sides with his snout and teeth becoming more canine-like. He opened his momentarily closed eyes to reveal the ruby-colored irises shining brighter than any lamp in contrast to the pitch-black color of his sclera. "Oh, an alpha, what a pleasant surprise. So young as well," Deucalion said, not sounding too surprised in his tone though. The twins were the first to attack, both trying to flank him on either side. Naruto was able to spot their movements and dodge the swipes at his person with expertise. The combat training he had gone through paying off in this instance. After he sent one twin flying back with a measured roundhouse kick. The female and other male alpha decided to join in on the fun. A while later, Naruto wasn't sure how he had expected this fight to go, but it was definitely going a lot better than what he had thought. Although the alpha pack had the numbers, their coordination was sorely lacking. He had managed to redirect them into each other a couple of times, and sure, while he was bleeding from various cuts, he had fared well considering the 1v4 odds. Deucalion stood observing as his pack struggled against this young alpha who healed faster than any other werewolf he had ever met. The young man was a formidable foe, but Deucalion was quickly growing tired. The twins could have shape-shifted into their combined form, but that wouldn't go particularly well seeing the pathetic display of teamwork from his pack. It was his turn to enter the fray. The demon wolf came out to play as the demonic-looking visage of the alpha's werewolf form revealed itself. Naruto was so caught up with his 4 enemies that he failed to notice the demon wolf behind him. Naruto turned back to late as Deucalion swiped at him with a lot of strength, sending the teenage alpha across the room and hard into the wall. Writhing as he tried to regain his breath, the pack were on him once again, and this time there was nothing he could do. The brute lifted him above his head, tossing him in the direction of the twins, where one jumped off the other's back and jackhammered him into the tile below. Naruto landed harshly. Before he could even attempt to regain his standing, sharp claws were pressed near his jugular, drawing some blood. Any movement here and he would die. This was checkmate. He really shouldn't have expected Deucalion not to jump in. The blonde resigned himself to his fate. Exactly what James told him not to come here and do. His arrogance had cost him. As soon as he knew Deucalion was here, he should have fled. Naruto heard the sound of claps coming from up above and opened his eyes to find Deucalion crouched above him. Well fought, young one. Not many of our kind can claim to be able to fight 4 alphas on even footing, Deucalion said, amusement heavy in his voice. Didn't matter at the end of the day, did it? Make it quick. Naruto had already accepted his fate. It was of no use begging for mercy. If he was to die, then he was to die, the cocky little shit he was, till his last breath. Oh, you think I'm gonna kill you? It was Naruto's turn this time to be surprised. What the hell did he mean? What? Deucalion chuckled. The 4 alphas all watched, curious what their leader would do, the female alpha still pressing her toenails sharply against his throat. What the fuck do you mean, Deucalion? Let me kill the cocky little shit and be rid of him, the female growled out angrily. You think too short-term, Callie, whereas I see potential. This little shit was able to defend himself against all 4 of you alone at his young age. Imagine the monster he could grow into. That's the kind of monster I need by my side, Deucalion calmly explained to his companions. So, what do you say, little wolf? Do you wish to live or die? Deucalion returned his attention to the teen under him. I appreciate the opportunity, but could you maybe give me some time to decide? Naruto was trying to bide some time. He didn't want to die here, but at the same time he couldn't accept. He seriously did not want to be taking orders from anyone else than himself. Come on, Deucalion, this kid is just trying to buy some time. Give me the word and I'll end him. Callie was once more the most vocal opposer of the proposal from Deucalion. I will give you the time you seek. Next time we cross paths, you either stand with me or you die. Deucalion finished off by messing with the hair on Naruto's head, almost like a father would do to his son. The sharp toenails eased off his neck and Naruto finally breathed in a deep breath. The alpha pack left, and he was sat laying on the ground deep in thought. How the fuck did I manage to get myself into this situation this time? James is so going to rub this in my face. Naruto dragged his bruised and beaten body all the way to his car as the cuts and bruises burned and healed far quicker than they had any right to. Thank God for my accelerated healing. Naruto got in his driver's seat and made his way back home to his apartment, eager for some rest and recovery. How the hell was he going to explain this to his friend? Naruto's apartment. Naruto woke up to his alarm flaring up the intense headache he had. Reaching out, he shattered the object of his annoyance. Yesterday hadn't been his most thought-out series of action, it was safe to say. For a werewolf with danger-detecting senses, he sure as hell hadn't been moving like the intelligent canine he could morph into. Naruto opened his eyes, the light hurting his eyes as he had to open and close them to adjust them to the rays of sunlight as the sun rose for early morning. He got up off his bed and headed to his bathroom to prepare for another day of school. Once he had arrived, Naruto had moved to his mirror to make sure all his wounds had healed overnight. Throwing off the t-shirt he had slept in, Naruto walked over to the mirror to observe his appearance. All the cuts had healed fully except these 3 cuts in his upper chest. That was where Deucalion had struck him. It didn't hurt as he touched the open skin, but it took a lot for anything to slow down his healing factor. For as long as he had known, he had always healed faster than the others. Broken bones would mend in days, and he never got sick once throughout his childhood. His mother had always admonished his brashness. The thought of her still caused Naruto great sadness. He wondered how she would have reacted to the madness that surrounded his life, but if there was one thing about Kushina, she had always been there for her, sweet Sochi. Naruto brought his hands out to wipe the tear that fell from his left eye. He thought he had got over that crying stage. After what had happened, Naruto resented the feeling of vulnerability. It was the first time since he had avenged his mother that he felt vulnerable, all those years of work broken down by Deucalion in a single night. Naruto hopped in his shower, carrying out his morning routine as he made sure he was ready for school. Naruto moved on to the final part of his preparation, choosing what to wear. In the end, he decided to throw on some basketball shorts, a hoodie and a pair of Jordan 1s. Naruto sat on his bed contemplating how he was going to explain this to the others. In the end, he decided to just tell both of them at the same time in the group chat. Naruto's pack GC. Naruto. Yee, so I got myself in some shit. Max. What do you mean shit, Ruto? James. Puta madre, knew it was only a matter of time. Max. James STFU, Naruto, what do you mean? Naruto. You know that pack of alphas. Max. You mean the ones that we specifically told you not to approach? Naruto. Yee, so I maybe might have done the total opposite of what you guys told me. Max. Insert straight-faced emojis. James. Idiot. Naruto. Yay, I know, probably not the most reasonable course of action on my end. Max. So, what happened? Naruto. I was tracking a pair of twins from the pack. We go to the same school, and they were hunting this girl. I followed them to the lacrosse locker room where the rest of the pack met up and went inside. Max. And you decided to follow a pack of alphas as they were handling their own business? Let me get this right, cause I don't think I'm hearing this correctly. James. Nah, he's genuinely on the spectrum, has to be. Naruto. Yes, I did. Max. You idiot, do you have any idea who the hell Deucalion is? I informed you before you left so you would avoid him at all costs. Max was one of Naruto's longtime friends and the second and last person he had turned. Max was the one they turned to for information gathering, he was the brains behind the pack. Max had always been cautious and the one thing he wanted to do was survive at all costs. Witnessing his father kill his mother as a child had caused him to have a deep fear of anything that could possibly threaten his life. Naruto. In hindsight, I really should have. James. Okay, you followed them and then what happened? Naruto. Long story short, I got found out. Max. How the fuck are you still alive? Naruto. Deucalion chose to spare me. Max. Deucalion doesn't make decisions on a whim. What did he tell you? Naruto. Well, the next time he crosses paths with me, I either have to swear fealty to him or get slaughtered basically. James. I'm on my way. Max. Wait, James. Ruto, try your best to continue avoiding Deucalion and the Alpha Pack for as long as you can. Naruto. Alright, I gotta go to school main. I'll talk to y'all later. Naruto didn't wait for a response as he prepared some breakfast before making his way towards Beacon Hills High. Beacon Hills High School. Naruto arrived around 30 minutes before it would be time for the bell to ring. Getting out his car, he locked it and made his way to the entrance. On his way to the entrance, he passed by the twins, both getting off their bike. Hoping not to be seen, Naruto quickly looked away from their location and focused on getting to the entrance. He really couldn't afford another meeting with Deucalion this early on. He still had no idea how he was going to handle this. Yo, wait up, he heard from behind him. Sighing, Naruto turned to look and the shorter of the two twins called out to him as they caught up. Ethan, what are you doing? The taller one called out to his twin. Ethan ignored his twin and continued moving towards Naruto. If they wanted a fight, they wouldn't start it here of all places. Naruto's thoughts helped him remain calm. Panicking wouldn't help him here, and if it came down to it, he was confident in defeating them, unless of course they pulled some bullshit ability out their ass or something. Hey, we still don't even know who you are. Ethan, having caught up to him, pointed out. The boy's speech patterns were a bit more feminine as was his actions. He had to be bile or something, Naruto deduced. The other twin also joined them shortly after, although he didn't seem all too pleased. Naruto. Naruto figured if they weren't here to start a fight it wouldn't hurt being cordial. I'm Ethan and this is my knucklehead twin Aiden. He pointed to his twin next to him who remained silent and just nodded his head at him in acknowledgement. Cool. So, unless I'm mistaken, you must have some reason for calling out to me. He wanted to know the motive behind the twins' approach. Well, I figured since you're going to be a part of the pack soon, we might as well introduce ourselves. Part of the pack, this guy must have lost his mind. Naruto thought to himself as he tried to make sense of Ethan's words. What makes you so sure I'm gonna be joining this little pack of yours? Naruto said to Ethan. Deucalion doesn't just do things for no reason, he didn't just let you leave with your life for no reason. He is interested in you and whether you wish to join or not, eventually you will bend the knee. Ethan said ominously as his twin stood beside him, still in total silence. What's wrong with big guy over here? He doesn't speak or something, Naruto said, referring to the twin closer in height to him. Oh, I speak. Deucalion told us not to interrupt what he has planned for you. Ethan, come on, let's go. Aiden began walking in the direction of the entrance, leaving his brother behind. Well, I guess I'll see you around, Naruto. Ethan ran to catch up to his brother. Naruto watched the pair all the way until they entered the school. Deucalion's plan? You've really gone and fucked yourself this time, Naruto, he pounded his head in frustration. Taking a deep breath, he calmed himself down before heading into the school. He had business with Coach Finstock first period and made his way to the classroom. He arrived a little later, spotting Styles and Scott already inside. He made his way to sit in the open seat in front of Styles. Styles was the closest thing he had to a friend so far in Beacon Hills. The boy had even reached out to him last night over text. Naruto. The energetic, quick-witted teen greeted the oncoming Naruto. "Hey Styles, Scott." He greeted both boys before taking his seat. Him and Scott hadn't really spoken much except for when they had discussed lacrosse yesterday. "Hey," Scott responded back, a friendly smile. Naruto sat facing the boys as he turned his head to Styles. "Where did you leave to in such a rush yesterday, Styles?" he asked the boy. Styles nervously looked around, clearly trying to make up a reason for it. The kid would make a terrible liar, Naruto thought in his head. Luckily for him, Scott was there to save his stuttering friend. "He actually had to help me with an emergency with my mom at the hospital." Scott quickly leapt in to help his best friend. "Oh, he just left in such a hurry, I was curious," Naruto said before moving the conversation onto another topic. The conversation between him, Styles and Scott flowed effortlessly as the trio talked about a great number of things before the lesson started. Eventually Coach arrived and the lesson started. Today's topic was risk and reward in business. Coach Finstock was asking if anybody in the class had a quarter and Styles behind Naruto raised his hand. Trying to get something out his pocket, the boy instead accidentally pulled out a condom out his pocket and it dropped to the ground in front of Coach Finstock. Naruto looked next to him, and it read, XXL, on the packet. Everyone looked to the condom on the floor. "Stilinski, I think you dropped this," Coach said, bending to pick up the condom and handing it back to Styles. "Congratulations," Coach said, walking back to the front of the classroom as some of the learners giggled. Naruto turned to the teen behind him who looked embarrassed. "You ever thought about pursuing a career in porn?" Naruto asked the teen behind him. Before Styles could respond, Coach carried on the lesson, placing his coffee mug on the ground and walking a few meters ahead of him. "Risk and reward, put the quarter in the mug, win the reward," Coach said, lifting up the quarter for all to see. He then proceeded to crouch and bounce the quarter off the ground, directly into the mug. Applause came from the class, appreciative of the display of coordination. That's how you do it," Coach boasted as the claps continued. "Okay Danny. Risk, reward," he said, tossing the coin over to the well-built teen sitting in front of Scott. "What's the reward?" the teen questioned. "You don't have to take the pop quiz tomorrow," Coach suggested. Coach, it's not a pop quiz if you tell us about it," Danny said, his tone carrying a small patronizing element. "Danny, I really expect more from you at this point." "Really?" the man said, taking the quarter away from Danny and walking towards Scott. "McCall, risk and reward. You put this quarter in the cup and you don't have to take the quiz," he said, correcting himself at the end of his sentence. "Risk, more work. Reward, no work at all," he said, using his hands to gesture the scales of risk and reward. "But isn't this just chance?" Scott questioned. "No, you know your abilities, the focus, past experience." "So, what's it gonna be, McCall?" "No work, more work, or choose not to play," he said, responding to the teen who was weighing up his options. Scott put the coin down on the table, deciding not to play, and Coach, disappointed, set his sights on someone else. "You, new kid. Risk, reward," Coach said, turning to face Naruto as the rest of the class turned their attention to him. Naruto knew that if he wanted to, he could easily get the quarter in the mug, but as he sat with the coin in his hands, he too decided not to play. "I think I'm gonna pass, Coach," Finstock sighed as he lighted the quarter up, asking if anyone wanted to play. The sounds of drumrolls coming from the table behind him alerted Naruto as to who decided to play. Styles stood from his seat, making his way to the front, eager to start playing. The boy was totally locked in, and while zoned in, failed to notice his father at the door calling for him. "Styles." The man finally managed to get his son's attention and took him out to have a quick chat with him. Styles came back into the classroom looking a bit more down, and as he went back to his seat behind Naruto, the boy found himself curious as to why. "Hey Styles, you alright, man?" he asked the boy behind him, concerned. "Yay, it's just a friend of mine, she went missing the other day," Styles informed him. Naruto, choosing not to press on the matter, just gave him some words of support and the lesson carried on like usual. A little while later, Naruto was in the school library busy looking for a biology book he would need for some research. He hadn't taken bio in over a year and the boy needed to do some studying on his own time to make up for it. Naruto wasn't a dunce by any stretch of the word, he had always excelled academically but bio was just so annoying for him to study. Surveying the library, he came across Allison sitting at a desk and when he looked a little further Lydia was talking to Aiden by a bookshelf close by. Damn, she moves quick. It hadn't even been a day ago now that he had given her his phone number and she was already moving to other targets, if he was to say. He didn't know why but something compelled him to go up to Allison and the boy found himself nearing the table she was sitting at before long. "Hey Allison," he called out to the girl who looked up from the screen of her laptop towards him. She looked pleasantly surprised, and her expression shifted into a smile at his greeting. "Hey Naruto," she said tucking a strand of her bronze hair behind her ear. "Your friend moves on quick," he said gesturing to Lydia behind her chatting with Aiden. "Oh, wait, I'm sure if you let her Lydia can explain," Allison said trying to cover for her friend. "No, you got it wrong. I'm not mad or anything, we barely know each other." Naruto found himself chuckling at the girl's attempt to scramble for an excuse. She looked sheepish afterwards. "What are you doing?" he said gesturing to her laptop. "Oh, I'm just looking for a logo." She was being deliberately vague in her answer. Naruto decided to press on. "What kind of logo are we talking about here?" he asked trying to discern more information. "Well, to tell the truth, I myself don't really know what I'm looking for here." She was trying to throw him off the current route the conversation was going in. What was she trying to hide? Before Naruto could attempt to get any more information, the pair were interrupted. "Naruto, what are you doing here?" The voice of Lydia interrupted the pair as she moved to sit next to Allison. "I was in the library looking for a book on biology. I need to make up for not taking the subject last year," he responded to the red-haired girl. "Well, I could help you with that," the girl offered. "Why do I get the gut feeling that you offer tutoring to every boy you meet, Lydia?" the boy said playfully. "Only the ones I like," Lydia said boldly. Naruto found himself amused by her directness. He liked a girl who got straight to the point. "So, you like me?" Naruto said, egging her on. "No, I was referring to Allison right here next to me," she said sarcastically. Naruto chuckled at the response. "Well then Lydia, I wouldn't be opposed to being tutored by you." The blonde found himself amused by the girl's antics and she seemed smart enough, so it was worth a bet. "Just hit me up whenever you want to get that study session in." This time her tone was more suggestive. Allison next to her cleared her throat. The girl was sat awkwardly watching the entire exchange between the two. "Well, I gotta get going." Naruto said his byes to the girls before heading out the library. Beacon Hills Animal Clinic. Scott and the gang were with Dr. Deaton. They had been trying to get Isaac's memory back from when he had last seen Erica and Boyd, his fellow betas. Isaac had been submerged deep inside an ice bath, slowing down his heart rate to send him into a trance-like state. Dr. Deaton and Derek's combined effort helped them determine the location of Erica and Boyd. They were being held inside the vault of an abandoned bank. Isaac's memory had told them that Erica had been killed, meaning that there was an unknown werewolf inside the vault with Boyd. "So, we gotta break into a bank. How the hell are we supposed to do that?" Derek Hale Beacon Hills Alpha asked the group. "We might not have to, someone else may have done it for us." "The bank was shut down after the vault was robbed," Styles said to the muscular man. "Okay, me and Styles are gonna go and figure out how we're gonna do this and get back to you," Scott said to Derek. The group split up as Styles drove himself and Scott to his house to plan how they were going to infiltrate the bank. The boys spent the whole night trying to formulate a plan and the two kept up at it long into the night until the pair fell asleep. Next morning, Sheriff Stilinski walked into his son's room to find both him and Scott passed out with papers all over the room. "Boys!" The pair awoke at the shout from Styles's father. "You two, get to school," he said to the pair of boys. The sheriff left the two boys to get ready and Scott and Styles were still discussing how they were going to get to the vault. They needed to get there today as the Alpha Pack planned on killing the imprisoned werewolves on the full moon. They had spent 10 hours the day before trying to figure out how the people who robbed the bank had done it. 10 hours and we still have no clue how to get into that bank," Styles said, frustrated with their lack of progress. Scott tried to be optimistic and reassure his friend would find something, but Styles wasn't as hopeful. Styles was busy going through the numerous pages he had near him, searching for anything when he saw a picture to his left. His father at the crime scene of the bank robbery. "Dad," Styles called out. Beacon Hills High. Lydia and Allison had arrived together, and the pair got out Allison's black vehicle. Lydia was questioning Allison's thought process behind this bank she wanted to go to. She had been searching for a meaning behind the marks that had been left on their forearms by the lady who came in looking for Scott. "So, mystery girl leaves a bruise on our arms and that turns out to be the logo for a bank? What you trying to do, get some investment advice?" Lydia asked, sounded unconvinced as she stepped out the car with Allison doing the same. "Not at this bank," Allison replied to her friend as they made their way to the trunk to retrieve their bags. "Why not tell Scott?" Lydia turned to her friend as they stood in front of the trunk. "Because according to someone, I have to find something real," Allison said, referring to Derek when she had brought up the mark to him. She opened up the trunk and took her handbag, and Lydia noticed bolt cutters inside the trunk. I can't drive you home today. I have an errand to run after school," Allison said, closing the boot as she and Lydia made their way inside the school. After school, Naruto got in his car preparing to leave. Today had been an exhausting day of school. Ethan once more approached him, and to be fair, when the twins weren't attacking him, they were pretty sound guys. Just as he was about to leave, he noticed Allison walking to her car alone, trying to look inconspicuous. That was weird. Allison and Lydia always went home together. Finding himself curious, Naruto trailed behind her in his car as she drove to parts he didn't know. Allison eventually stopped at an abandoned-looking bank and Naruto decided to trail her on foot. She got out her car and made her way to the doors in front, closed shut by chains. She got out a bolt cutter before cutting the chains off and making her way inside. Naruto really didn't have a good feeling about this. He followed the girl, making sure he was not spotted. He followed in the dark as Allison made her way further inside, being careful so as not to alarm her. Over the years he had noticed that werewolves often gave off a predatory aura when they were stalking someone, and he tried to suppress it as he trailed Allison. Naruto's keen ears heard movement and he immediately searched for a place to hide. He found an open door next to him and headed in, making sure to lock and made sure to keep an ear out for any discussion. A slight shout from Allison and he heard the signs of a small struggle. Should he go out to help her? In the end Naruto decided not to, as if it was a serious threat, the shout would have been more urgent. He focused his sense of hearing and eavesdropped on what was happening. "Keep your mouth shut and let this go. You have no idea what you stepped into. Right now, you've given me 20 seconds to get your ass hidden," a familiar female voice said to Allison. "What are you doing?" Allison said, struggling to breathe. From what he could hear, the woman had her up against the wall in a chokehold of some sort. Naruto knew this voice was familiar, but in that moment his mind couldn't arrive to the conclusion of who it belonged to. "Get in that closet storage right there. Lock the door. Only come out when the fighting starts," the voice said once more. "What fighting?" a confused-sounding Allison let out. "You'll hear it now, go." Naruto heard Allison's feet shuffling, and her scent moved further away into a room. The closet, he assumed from what the voice told her. The click of a door closing confirmed his deduction and his left ear picked up on other movement. "Wait, those are toenails clicking on the tile floor." Fuck. Naruto either had the worst luck or the ones up above just loved having fun at his expense. Deucalion and his bunch of egomaniacs were here. Naruto knew his scent was undetectable, but Deucalion had found him last time. He needed to do something more. Naruto slowed down his breathing, before holding it in an attempt to slow his heart rate. This was his only bet. If Deucalion found him right now, he would have no choice but to either submit or die. He still needed time for him and his pack to come up with a solution to deal with this. Shit, Allison. If he could smell her, then they undoubtedly could if they tried. Come on, be smart, do something. The sound of toenails on tiles got louder with each passing second and his despair grew as he knew he wouldn't be able to sit by and do nothing as Allison was ripped to shreds if they found her. The toenails click on the ground came to a stop. That wasn't a good sign, but this time when he tried to get Allison's scent, he was unable to. Thank God, the girl had managed to hide her scent and Callie and the others continued on towards their destination. He stayed hidden and after a while he heard them coming back from the direction they came from and left. Letting out a breath, the boy was relieved. I really should stop following people on a whim, he thought to himself. Allison stayed hidden in her room as well before they heard werewolf-sounding howls and growls coming from a short distance. Fighting, Naruto noted. None of the werewolves sounded familiar, so it wasn't any of the alpha pack. Naruto sat and waited to see if Allison would act. As much as he hated it, he'd always had a hero complex and the girl was in danger and the only reason he stayed was to protect her in case. The wounds from his last showdown had healed fully and he was back to full fitness. A door clicked open, and Naruto sighed in his head. Fuck, now he had to follow her. Opening his door, he followed behind the girl as she made her way to the vault, the sounds of fighting getting louder. She eventually arrived and Naruto watched from a little away as Scott and another werewolf were attacked by two others, a male and female. The opposing male werewolf was a tall muscular black teen, and the female was a black-haired Caucasian girl of average height. McCall and the other man who Naruto noticed was an alpha were getting absolutely wrecked by the two werewolves. This type of strength coming from werewolves who weren't even alphas was frightening. Allison looked as though she wanted to help. The girl bent down and looked as though she was about to break the seal, keeping the werewolves in there before the male stopped her. Don't break the seal, he shouted in her direction, still occupied by the female attacking him. Naruto had to step out now. He couldn't allow her to let these rabid werewolves loose out on the city. He popped out from where he was hidden, and he managed to let out some words before she could break the seal. Allison, don't, he called out to the girl who turned around in shock. She looked confused at his appearance and found herself questioning it. Naruto? The girl sounded confused. You can't let them out to the city. They're out of control. Naruto said, referring to the rabid werewolves attacking Scott and the man. The man was looking at him, perhaps curious what this person who he had never seen before was doing here. But Scott? Allison pointed to the boy who was about to be killed by the big male werewolf. Ah fuck, he really had no other option, did he? Break the seal, Allison. The girl wasted no time in doing so. Boyd. The girl called out the male werewolf as she broke the seal. His attention turned on them. Move, Allison, Naruto said to her as he began to morph. Platinum hair popping out his face shifting, becoming more canine-like. His jaws widened, the teeth sharpening into that of a wolf, dagger-like canines looking sharp enough to rip clear through skin. The last change to be noted was the ruby-colored irises swimming in a sea of black sclera, shining in the darkness of the abandoned vault. He heard Allison's surprised yelp, but he ignored it as the two rabid werewolves made a beeline towards where he was standing. Growling, he crouched and prepared himself. He really had no idea how this would go. He had just seen these two fight on equal standing with an alpha and decimate Scott, who while just being an omega wasn't a slouch by any means. The big one Boyd arrived first, and he was able to hold him off even though it took him some serious effort to do so. He turned to defend himself against the female, and while he was preoccupied with her, he was snugged by Boyd, who sent him flying in the distance. He was expecting the pair to continue the onslaught, but they instead turned and ran. Leaving the bank, Scott and the man he didn't know stepped out the vault, and boy, the man was pissed. He gripped her forearms harshly as Naruto stood up from where Boyd had thrown me. He reversed my transformation, seeing as there was no enemy to fight. Don't touch her, Scott shouted in Allison's defense. What were you thinking? The man ignored the protest of Scott. I had to do something. Allison tried defending herself. She saved our lives, Scott said, backing her up. The man then turned his attention to Naruto. He looked at him with distrust, curious as to who this blonde individual was. From what Derek could tell, he was tall, around 6 feet and 2 inches. He was muscular but in the middle of lean and bulky. Defined shoulder and pec muscles visible from his shirt. He looked to be around Scott's age. An alpha that young, he had to be a part of Deucalion's band. You. Derek growled at the teen, his eyes turning red. Wait, stop, he's a friend. Allison was quick to get in front of the man. You have a friend in the Alpha Pack? He growled, growing angry. I'm not a part of the Alpha Pack, at least not yet. Naruto this time flared his alpha eyes as well, preparing for conflict. What do you mean yet? Scott asked from behind the man. Deucalion spared me a couple of days ago, on the terms that when we next met I would either join him or die. The boy replied calmly to Scott, who was cautious of the boy he had recently met. What do you want in Beacon? I'm already the alpha here. Derek was still suspicious of the boy. I came here for lacrosse, man. I just got the worst luck. Derek didn't look convinced but turned his attention back to Allison, who was in front of him. Do you have any idea what you just let out there? Still outraged at her breaking the seal. You wanna blame me? Well, I am not the one turning teenagers into killers, she retorted. No, it's just the rest of your family. Naruto got the feeling that there were parts of the story that were missing. These two seemed to resent each other. I made mistakes. Gerard was not my fault, the girl defiantly said. And what about your mother? Allison seemed stricken at this comeback. What about my mother? Naruto was watching all of this unfold from the side. Tell her, Scott. Allison turned her attention to Scott. Scott? The boy looked away from her eyes, staring at the floor. I hate to interrupt this, but we have 2 rabid werewolves on the loose. Don't you think we should handle that? Naruto interrupted before Scott could answer. Me and Scott are going to handle this. I don't trust you. Seeing that he wasn't wanted, Naruto figured it would be better to leave. Then I guess I'm out. Hey Scott, if you ever need help just reach out, he said before turning to leave the group. Naruto headed outside to where he had parked his car. He got in and strapped the seatbelt in. I really have fuck all to do. He took out his phone, going through his contacts before landing at one in particular, Lydia Martin. Lydia, Naruto. I was thinking maybe we could get that study session in right now. Lydia. You know, if you only text me late at night you might start giving me the wrong impression. Naruto. Maybe the wrong impression is the one I want to give. Lydia sent her location and Naruto put it in the GPS. She was around 10 minutes away from where he currently was. Naruto. I'll be over in 10. Lydia. I'll be waiting then. Naruto had no idea why he had reached out to Lydia out of all people in his boredom. That was a lie, he knew exactly why. Lydia had been giving hints for a while now, and the frustration of the Deucalion situation was getting to him. He needed a distraction. Starting the car up, Naruto made his way over to Lydia's house. 2243, Lydia's house. Naruto pulled up in the driveway of Lydia's house. Lydia was very well off, that was all he could say. He stepped out his vehicle after parking it and went to knock at the front door. He was greeted by Lydia's mom, and upon telling her he was a friend of Lydia she let him inside. Naruto was sat on the couch as the woman went to call her daughter. She'll be down in a jiffy, my boy, the woman said, coming to sit down on a couch. Thank you, ma'am. The boy tried to be as respectful as possible. You another one of Lydia's little boyfriends? The woman asked Naruto. Why, does she bring boys back home often? He replied to the woman. No, but from the few she has brought back, you look a lot more handsome than. The lady whispered to the teenage boy sitting opposite her. Mom, stop embarrassing me, Lydia said, coming down the stairs. I was just talking to your friend here, dear. Lydia came up to him. Come on, let's go up to my room, Lydia said, essentially dragging the boy along with her as they made their way up the stairs. They eventually arrived at a room and Lydia opened the door, letting him in. Naruto went to take a seat on the queen-sized bed while Lydia stood across from him. So, when do we start with the bio? He turned to the redhead who was standing in front of him. The girl didn't respond and instead moved closer, before pushing the blonde down onto his bed. We both know you didn't come over for some biology. The girl's eyeing him from his position laid on her bed. Wait, Lydia, are you sure about this? The blonde asked as the redhead got on top of his person and straddled his waist. Lydia, wake up. What's wrong? The blonde shouted, shaking the girl harshly as he managed to snap her out of it. Lydia turned to look at him and, clearly confused, the girl looked around the room before looking back at him. Get out, Lydia said to him emotionlessly. What? The blonde was confused. I said get out. Naruto was rushed out the door by Lydia in his underwear, and as though was about to shut behind him he realized his car keys were in his shorts upstairs. Wait, Lydia, my. The door banged shut and the blonde kicked a nearby garden gnome in anger. Fuck, he exclaimed, out in the cold, bare feet, and he would have to get home. Lydia had better not speak to him in the coming days, cause boy he was pissed. He had no idea how his mother hadn't woken up during all that commotion. Sighing, Naruto began walking in no direction in particular, damn near naked in the freezing temperature. How the fuck am I supposed to know how to get home from here, the blonde thought as he passed the surrounding houses, walking hoping to find a sign or anything that would help. Deucalion sat in his chair, pondering as usual. The McCall boy was a cause of concern, but when he got Derek to join them, the so-called true alpha would be dealt with. Derek Hale was his primary reason for coming out to this god-forsaken city. But recently his mind had been focused almost entirely on another object of interest. The boy. Aiden and Ethan had informed him his name was Naruto, and this boy, for a reason unknown to him, reminded him of someone from his past. He couldn't recall who exactly, but the strong feeling of déjà vu was unmistakable. The young alpha was indeed powerful for one so young, but it wasn't his current power that interested Deucalion, it was the sheer potential. The teen was brash, cocky and immature, but with time, he was sure he would be able to mold him into shape. He healed faster than any werewolf he had seen before, and his strength and speed were nothing to scoff at either. The blonde had been stupid to think he could stand a chance in a fight against 4 alphas by his lonesome, but the tight space had worked to his advantage. Deucalion was interrupted from his musings by Callie, the only female in his pack. "I'm growing restless, when do we finally get to test out this new alpha you want to recruit?" the bloodthirsty alpha said to Deucalion. His second-in-command had always been one of the more brash members of their faction, having zero interest in the meticulous schemes. "Patience, Callie. We will soon go visit our dear friend Derek. In the meantime, keep yourself occupied by other means." Deucalion waved her off. Callie chose not to leave and instead focused on another point of discussion that had been bothering her. "I still don't know why we let that little shit go," Callie said, frustrated with her leader's actions. Deucalion simply took off the sunglasses that hid his blind eyes and looked at his female compatriot. "Sometimes, Callie, the blind man you see can see blooming flowers within his vicinity. Sometimes, every so often, he feels like picking these flowers. The boy is naive, but the potential is unmistakable. You felt it by your own hand." The man was calm as his eerie-looking eyes still to this day caused some degree of discomfort in Callie as they gazed at her. "The brat was lucky not to have fought us in the open. Ennis and I would have had it handled if that was the case," she protested. "The brat may have been able to fight 4 of them on almost even footing, but that was only because of the small amount of room they had to operate in. Ennis and herself weren't the strongest in the pack, but they had skill which the Rotwins didn't. Ethan and Aiden were undoubtedly the second strongest werewolf in the pack with their merged form, but Callie was second in command for a reason. Maybe that would have been the case, but to even think a child as young as him could fight both you and Ennis at the same time by himself is ludicrous. Callie, you're one of the strongest werewolves alive, and him being able to do that just further proves my point." Deucalion tried to reason with Callie. The child she so wanted to kill was behind only him and the twins' merged form in terms of raw power, and he needed to get his hands on him before anyone else did. "Fine, when are you finally going to confront the brat? You know you could track him down right now and you would have no other option but to join." Callie was confused. "I intend to let the boy join of his own volition. I could force him to bend the knee, but that doesn't guarantee me his loyalty." The team gave off a free spirit, and attempting to cage one often yielded in unsatisfactory results. "What in the brat interests you so much? If you wanted to add a strong young werewolf, the true alpha that everyone speaks of would have been a better option. He could grow as strong as the brat." Something about the little brat rubbed Callie the wrong way. "I guess you could call it a whim, but something about that boy reminds me of something. I intend to find out what." Deucalion rose out his seat and began walking out the room. "When Ethan and Aiden come back, tell them to continue making friends with the boy," he said before exiting. Naruto's apartment. Waking up with a groan, the half-tired teen stretched out as the alarm next to him rang. He was still pissed, after Lydia had kicked him out her house at like 1 in the fucking morning. He had taken 5 hours to find his way home. He didn't know what the fuck she had going on, but he had been freezing his balls off in the cold. Crazy bitch. She probably had a valid reason, but at this point Naruto didn't care. He had had for the first time in his life, and the newly former virgin's night had been ruined. He would admit, he had enjoyed it, but the whole balls shriveling in the cold thing had kind of ruined it. Naruto got up and moved to his shower, in the hope of taking a cold shower to rejuvenate him. The cold shower had done its job, and he was by now feeling less tired than he had been as he began preparing for school. He wondered what Scott and the Alpha had done about the loose werewolves from last night. Shrugging, he put on his clothes. He had decided to wear some casual gray sweatpants and a white wife-beater with some running shoes. He had cross-country in the morning and packed his shorts and second skin to change into. Naruto finally made his way out the apartment and to his car. Beacon Hills High. The boys were in the locker rooms, getting changed as they were getting ready to start their run. Naruto was a little distance off from Scott and Styles, sitting near the Alpha twins. Aiden and Ethan weren't bad company and Naruto found himself getting along with them more than he would have originally thought. They made their way outdoors to start the run, the twins heading on ahead of him, eyes on another tall-looking male who smelled like a werewolf. The boy stood around 6 feet 2 an inch shorter than Naruto himself. Whoever the boy was seemed to have static with the twins because as soon as coach signaled to start, he ran off chasing behind the pair of alphas who were quite a distance ahead of the group. Scott followed closely behind him, and Naruto was left jogging alongside Styles. The boy seemed to be nervous around him for some odd reason. "What's up with you, Styles?" Naruto questioned the boy jogging near him. "Scott told me Derek told him not to trust you, so I probably shouldn't be talking to you, you know," the boy let out nervously. "So that's the alpha's name." Naruto could understand why he would be wary of an unknown alpha just appearing in his territory. The only logical conclusion he could come to was that he was a part of the Alpha Pack. "Yet, you're still here running alongside me," Naruto pointed out. "Yay, apparently you're supposed to be some big bad alpha who's a part of this pack, but I think I know you slightly better than the others and I think I'm a good judge of character," Styles told the blonde. "So, you don't believe I'm a part of the Alpha Pack?" Naruto was surprised Styles wasn't immediately accepting the conclusion Scott and the other male, Derek, had come to. "Yee, you're a pretty alright guy when someone gets to know you." Naruto smiled at that. "You do know there's a very high chance I join the Alpha Pack." Naruto decided he should explain the situation to the boy who was so far from his only friend here in Beacon. Ethan and Aiden were so far acquaintances, he didn't know what he and Lydia had going on, and Allison was an acquaintance much like the twins. "What do you mean by that?" Before Naruto could explain, they were interrupted by a loud cry coming from the forest ahead. Everyone made their way towards the sound, and they found the dead body of a male, tied by his neck to a tree. Styles seemed to be aware of what took place, and a few seconds later they were joined by Scott and the tall male from before. "It's him, isn't it?" Styles asked Scott next to him. Styles's father came before Scott could answer, ushering all the students away from the gruesome scene as he tried to get the crime scene under control. Styles went up to his father, pointing to the cable tied around the body's neck. "Dad, just come here, look. It's the same as the others, you see," Styles said, pointing out the wounds on the dead body. "I see it, do me a favor. Go back to school, yay," the man said, addressing his son. The sheriff and coach told the students to get away from the crime scene, and Naruto went away alongside Styles and the other two that joined them later. They were walking down the hill from the tree when the tall male from earlier decided to speak. "Did you see the way the twins were looking at the body?" he questioned in an almost accusatory tone. "Yay, like they had no idea what happened." Styles was the first to respond to him. Nah, they knew." The male seemed decided. "The kid was strangled by a garrote. Am I the only one recognizing the lack of werewolfitude in these murders?" Styles pointed out. "You think it's a coincidence they turn up and people start dying?" the tall male once more questioned. "Well, no, but I still don't think it's them," Scott said. It was at this point Naruto decided to chime in. "That wasn't a werewolf kill, the twins didn't have anything to do with that." Scott turned to him, eyes still showing a slight hint of distrust, while the other male looked openly distrusting of him. "Yeah, you would know seeing as you're a part of them," he accused Naruto. This time Scott piped up, trying to calm the male. "Isaac, calm down," he said to the tall male next to him. Isaac calmed down a bit after that and turned to Scott once more. "What do you think, Scott?" he asked, in accordance with the dead body and the involvement of the twins. "I don't know yet," Scott said, sounding unsure. "You don't know yet?" Styles seemed baffled. "I mean, he's got a point. Seriously, dude, human sacrifices?" Scott said, doubting the hypothesis his best friend had come to. "You turn into a fucking wolf on a full moon, with glowing yellow eyes, and sacrifices are where you start becoming skeptical?" Styles sounded exasperated. "He's got a point." Scott this time turned to Isaac. "I don't care, they killed that girl, and they killed the others, and I'm gonna kill them." Isaac stormed off. Naruto stood observing. Isaac was a bit of a loose cannon. The boy was hot-headed, but Naruto found his bravery, although stupid, was admirable. The twins would absolutely destroy him, but hey, he wouldn't be the one to tell him that. Scott followed the teen, leaving Naruto alone with Styles. "So, what are you going to do?" Naruto turned to Styles. "Well, someone has to find out what's going on. My dad won't be able to figure this out without the full picture." Styles responded to his blonde-haired friend. "I've got nothing better to do, so I might as well help out." Naruto offered an olive branch out. "Thanks man, with Scott busy with all this alpha business, I'll need it," Styles said, sounding grateful. The two boys made their way back to school and carried on with their day, heading to the next lesson. Derek's apartment. Derek Hale stood watching his newly rediscovered younger sister doing pull-ups. She had been found with Boyd the night they were inside the vault. He still had no idea of how to deal with this. He thought he had lost Korra alongside his other family members in the fire, and now she had come back. He had no idea how to deal with it. Korra was still visibly not at a 100% following that night, but she was still pushing herself doing the pull-ups. "Stop, you're not done healing," Derek voiced out to his little sister. "Yeah? Well, I'm done laying around," Derek sighed as she stopped her pull-ups and went do some push-ups on the ground. "Then sit." Derek tried to make his voice sound a bit sterner, hoping she would listen. "You're gonna help me go after them?" Korra asked her big brother, referring to the Alpha Pack. Derek for a second looked at her. Still, after all these years, she was naive. A single alpha taking on a pack of alphas was ludicrous. Derek moved forward to where Korra was busy doing her push-ups before kicking out a leg, knocking her hand away and unbalancing the girl. Korra wasn't ready and he had to show her himself, before any others had the chance. Angered, the girl stood up, throwing blows in retaliation. To Derek, the swinging of her fists came in slow and her heavily telegraphed strikes were blocked with ease. A punch to his right, one to his left, a jab aimed at his face, all easily blocked and leaving Korra frustrated. Derek grabbed hold of her arms as she attempted to swing once more, pushing her backwards. "Come on, fight back." The girl was frustrated. Her actions once more affirmed the fact that she wasn't ready in Derek's mind. He didn't say a word, choosing to instead stare at his younger sister in front of him. "I came back for this? I can't believe I got my ass thrown in a vault for 3 months, for you. All those rumors I heard, a powerful new alpha, one of the Hales, building a pack. Do you know how long I waited to hear something like that?" Korra was going on a rant, the buildup of emotions finally flowing out. "Do you have any idea how it felt to find out you were alive?" Vulnerability this time leaking into Korra's tone. "Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you," Derek said, staring at the little sister he had missed for so long. The alarm bell rang, signaling an intrusion to the apartment. Derek and Korra both looked at the flashing red light, Korra unsure of what was going on. The sound of the sliding door opening met both their keen ears, and both turned to the source. "What's that?" Korra asked her brother. "Trouble," Derek said, sounding nervy as the door opened to reveal a brute of a man. Ennis, the muscled man, part of the Alpha Pack. The man growled at them, his sharp teeth and glowing red eyes visible. Before Derek could stop her, Korra rushed to attack the Alpha intruder. Running towards him, she was easily handled when the massive man simply grabbed her by her neck, lifting her up and proceeding to choke slam her on the hard concrete. He kept his hand around her neck, holding her down as he looked up to Derek. "Ready for a rematch?" he asked Derek. Before Derek could go and attack the male, the sound of toes clicking on concrete was noticed by his ears. Derek looked up and in walked a female alpha, Hispanic looking with a menacing grin on her face. A growl escaped her mouth and Derek moved forward to attack the female. Beacon Hills High. Naruto was sat in science. The teacher had paired him up with Lydia and the tension was visible. The two sat there awkwardly, not looking at each other. He had thought he would be a lot angrier at her actions, but as he sat there next to her, he just couldn't handle the awkwardness. "So, we just gonna sit here or do you want to talk about it?" The two hadn't spoken since the events from the previous night. Naruto would have been lying to himself if he couldn't admit that he had been replaying what they had done in their mind. "What is there to speak about?" Lydia was still unwilling to meet his eyes. "Maybe the fact that you flipped out on me last night and I had to walk home, naked, in the cold." Naruto wasn't about to let her get off that easy. Speaking of, Lydia reached in her handbag, taking out his car keys before handing them to him. Pick it up whenever. My mom washed your clothes for you, so you might want to get those as well, she said, this time looking him in his eyes for the first time. Lydia, before Naruto could continue, he was interrupted. You enjoyed it, didn't you? Lydia asked, and Naruto took a moment to think before nodding yes. Then what is there to talk about? Lydia tried to move on from the topic. Lydia, something happened last night, and I want to know what, he said, concern leaking into his voice. The girl stared at him for a moment before sighing and turning away from him. I'll let you know when I know. Before Naruto could press on the bell for interval rang. Lydia quickly left the class, leaving Naruto to his thoughts. Lydia walked out the class heading to the cafeteria. She ran into Styles on the way, who decided to follow her. The boy said he had something to tell her regarding the murders recently. Naruto was still on her mind, but Lydia had already tried to move on from that. She didn't know what had happened to her last night, but she needed a distraction from the craziness, and Aiden had recently been providing that. She had told Naruto that she just needed a distraction, so she hoped he wouldn't take her moving on to another person personal. She may sort of value the little friendship they had developed before they fucked. What I'm telling you, Lydia, is that these killings have a pattern. First it was 3 virgins. What if now it's 3 people with little dogs? Lydia stopped for a moment to think about what Styles had said. I have a small dog. Lydia realized. Styles gave her a look. No, absolutely not. I'm not getting rid of my dog, Styles, she said, continuing to walk on ahead. Styles followed next to her. I'm not saying you should. Okay, maybe I'm saying you should get rid of your dog, Styles stressed to the girl. You can't discern data from a single set of results anyway, she reasoned. Well, Scott's occupied with the alpha stuff, so I kind of need to, Styles said to the redhead. Alpha stuff? Lydia questioned. You know, like the alpha pack in town. The twins. Oh, now that I think about it, technically Naruto as well, but he isn't in the pack, so he can't be included, but he can. I don't know, he's also an alpha, I mean. Styles started rambling and Lydia walked along, absorbing the influx of information. Thinking about the night before, she had unknowingly had with an alpha werewolf and was currently talking to another alpha currently. Her life had become a wet dream of one of those supernatural obsessed teens. Oh, she responded, sounding oddly as if she was hiding something. Styles didn't press on this observation. Maybe it's not your job, this doesn't sound like something to do with werewolves. You said it yourself, the victims were strangled with a garrote, so maybe you should leave it to someone human, she told Styles. You mean someone like my father? He got the feeling that was what she meant. No, Styles, I mean your dad. Lydia rolled her eyes and walked away, leaving Styles standing alone. The sheriff, she said lastly before the bell rung, and she made her way inside the building, now truly away from Styles. After school, Styles was in his car driving to the Scott's mentor. Naruto had tagged along with him, and they were going to Dr. Deaton for help. The man always seemed to know so much more than everyone else in the town concerning the supernatural, and Styles needed some answers. So, this vet guy is supposed to be some supernatural guru or something? Naruto questioned the teen driving his jeep. Yay, he's like Scott's mentor, and he always seems to know about what's going on regarding this supernatural crap and lycanthropy. The boys sat the rest of the ride to Dr. Deaton's animal clinic in silence. Dr. Deaton's animal clinic. The boys had arrived and the man they were looking for was stood in front just as they stepped foot inside. Naruto felt something off about this place. It felt as though something was restricting his movement. Mountain Ash, he realized. The man before them clearly was well informed on werewolves, at least, he could deduce. The man gazed at Naruto, trying to decipher the identity of the blonde-haired teen that had walked in along Styles. The man had been around long enough to tell a werewolf apart from a human, and the boy was clearly one. That didn't make any sense. As far as he knew, Derek hadn't made any new betas. Styles? The man looked pleasantly surprised at Styles' unexpected visit. Yay, I was actually on the way to see my dad. I guess you probably heard that people are kinda getting murdered again. It's his job to figure it out. Styles began his plans to guilt trip, hoping to play on Dr. Deaton's emotions to get help. I kind of figured as much from the sheriff title. The man replied with humor laden in his tone. Well, it gets kinda hard for him to do his job when he doesn't have all the information. And we all know he doesn't have the full story here, so then I started thinking and I remembered someone who does have a lot of information. Someone who always seems to know more than anyone else around here. You. The boy had been nervously glancing at the ground before he looked Dr. Deaton in the eyes towards the very end of his slight monologue. Your friend here? The doctor asked, referring to Naruto, who stood next to him. You can trust him, he's not a part of the new pack in town. Styles defended his friend. Follow me. The doctor walked off, heading inside his operation room. Styles and Naruto stood looking at each other before, with a shrug of the shoulder, they followed behind the doctor. As they were walking behind him, Styles chose to voice some of his thoughts. All these symbols and things. The bank logo, mountain ash, all come from the Celtic Druids, and anyone who's ever looked up human sacrifices knows that the Druids had a pretty big hard-on for giving one up to the gods. You ever hear of Lindo Man? 2,000-year-old body, he was found strangled, head bashed in, throat slashed. Threefold death. They also found pomegranates in his stomach. Guess what Druid's favorite plant that was? On cue, Dr. Deaton withdrew a plant from a jar he had been fiddling with. Mistletoe. The man responded to Styles. Naruto looked at the poisonous plant in the doctor's hand. While mistletoe could be used for healing, it was very rarely used for those reasons. I'm just telling you everything you already know, aren't I? Styles said to the man as he put down the mistletoe. Then why aren't you telling us? This time Styles raised his voice at the man, feeling frustrated. Maybe it's because when you've spent every moment of the last 10 years trying to push something away, denying it, lying about it, it becomes a pretty powerful habit. Styles's expression shifted, becoming a bit more remorseful, but the boy wouldn't stop here. Alright, so, this guy, is he a druid? The boy asked, more mellowed out than earlier. No. It's someone copying the history of a centuries-old people who should have known better. Do you know what the word druid means in Gaelic? Wise oak. The Celtic Druids were close to nature, they believed they kept it in balance. They were philosophers and scholars, they weren't serial killers, the doctor resounded firmly. Yay, well this one is. Before Styles could continue, his phone rang in his pocket and Naruto listened in, hearing the distinct sound of Lydia's voice. She sounded distressed and the blonde and doctor stood watching as Styles spoke. Wait, what? Okay, are you sure he's missing? Styles asked over the phone. Not just missing, taken. Naruto heard Lydia's distressed voice reply. The boys and Dr. Deaton made their way back to school, going to Lydia, who was in the music room. When they got back to Beacon Hills High, they wasted no time heading straight to her. She showed them an audio recording off a phone she had found on the piano where the missing person's bloodstains were on. Can we get a copy of this? Dr. Deaton asked the girl as he paused the audio recording. Lydia took the phone back and got to it. Naruto stood near them while Styles was digging through a desk, looking for anything worthy of note. Hey doc, any help right now would be helpful, Styles said as he continued digging. Each grouping of 3 would have its own purpose. Its own type of power, virgins, healers, philosophers, warriors. He was about to continue before Styles cut in. Wait. Warriors? Could that be like soldiers? Styles asked the doctor, having taken a moment to pause in his scratching. Absolutely, the doc replied. Styles lifted up an image of the music coach and his wife getting married in military style. Everyone looked at the picture and Styles slammed it down on the desk next to him. Kyle was part of the military, he told the group. That's gotta be it. That's the pattern. Where's Boyd? Dr. Deaton asked Styles. Probably at home. I'm gonna try and get him on the phone, Styles said, making to walk away. Naruto stood beside Lydia, arms wrapped around her as they had been for a short minute now, as he tried to reassure her. Something wrong, Lydia? Dr. Deaton asked the girl as she was staring out into space. No, I just remembered someone else with military experience, the girl responded as she snapped out of it. It only took Naruto a couple of seconds to realize who exactly Lydia was thinking about. Their science teacher, Mr. Harris, had told them earlier that day that he had served. Shit, Naruto thought as he turned to Dr. Deaton. Mr. Harris. Both Lydia and Naruto said in unison. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.